What is up, everyone? It's the internet's unfriendliest barista, aka Sprometheus here, and today we're doing episode 5. It's really time has flown on the Over Extracted podcast, and today I'm bringing in a friend of mine, a coffee person, again another local legend, who's doing a lot of interesting things. If you've been watching my channel for the last year or two, you've probably either seen them, heard about them, saw me drinking their coffee, maybe doing a vlog at their shop. I feel like I've done all those things and more. I served their coffee in 2024 at the expo. A lot of you came by and had that. So I need to introduce to you Mr. Jon Runion
Thank you.
of Necessity fame.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I'm John. I own Necessity Coffee, and yeah, stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to just kind of peel back the layers of the Jon Runion and kind of pick his brain on things that, cafe ownership, roasting, business deals, you're a businessman. I know you like the business side of the stuff. So like, if you want to just explain to everybody kind of what Necessity is and kind of what your mission with that brand is.
Yeah. At Necessity, we're a cafe. We have one cafe right now, and kind of like the idea behind it is like trying to bring really fun experiences to people, and like some of that is like in drink development, and some of that is in like trying to find really interesting coffees that I personally want to drink every day and want to find, and like just trying to highlight the things that producers are doing today that they haven't been doing, in the past. And so we've been lucky enough to work with some phenomenal people, like just like changing the game, in my opinion. And it's been really fun to be able to serve coffees in the cafe that are like at that level and be like successful at it. Like people want it, and we didn't know really if people would buy into it, but it's been really cool to see how exciting people have gotten for the types of coffees that we've like found.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's, and I feel like I've brought this up both to you and just in general when talking about Necessity, but there's not a lot of folks doing what y'all are doing in San Diego. I feel like, for better or for worse, a lot of the roasters here buy a lot of the same coffees, and they deal with local distributors or local people who they have personal connections with, and that's great. Like, I love that. But at the same time, the downside of that is, from a person who likes to drink coffee perspective, is you go to a place and they have the same coffee that they have at the other place and the other place. And Necessity is generally worth the drive because there's just so many more unique coffee experiences there than what you will generally find at most shops. So I guess the question I would have is, when you started working to develop Necessity and pick coffees, you found like one really like solid single origin thing for your espresso and your bases.
Yeah.
But what really pushed you to want to do so many really unique single origins within that mix?
So we have like tried and true like washed Colombian that we work with a producer in Colombia, Huila, and we've been working with him since 2023. It just like fits the bill for like a milk-based beverage. We need to have that in a cafe setting, and as a business. Like, it's fun to have like crazy experimental coffees and stuff like that, but also like we gotta also have something that's like super clean and really fun. And so we definitely were hunting and like really working to try to find that coffee, because I knew I wanted to serve coffees that were not really easily findable, or like in San Diego and like in this region or whatever. Like, there's a lot of good cafes serving coffees like us, but like I do find it not that much here in San Diego. And so like, again, it goes back to like I want to drink these coffees, so I'm going to find these coffees for me. And I just hope people will want to buy them also.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so knowing that I wanted to work with these producers that I had worked with them before, and like at the beginning of their journey, um, their coffees were it was an experiment, you know? It's like these processing methods were an experiment taken a lot of times from like winemaking techniques and started to move into coffee. And I wanted to be a part of it. And I tried some early on, like, you know, like 2018, 19, and they were something else, you know? Like it took some time, but I knew it was going to be like, I knew coffees like this are like, were hitting my taste buds and being like, yeah, John, like, this is what you want. And it comes down to that idea of like, I think I've worked in coffee like for a very long time. And like, there are people who are like, man, this coffee was the coffee that got me into coffee. And
I
like
think
everyone,
we all have
almost
that for
everyone
sure.
has that one coffee. Or like you talked about people to be like, I wish I could read that book again and not have any knowledge of what happens. It's like, it's, I needed and wanted to find that over and over and over. And I said, why does it just have to be the one time and the one coffee? I could just keep pushing myself and finding producers and working with producers that gives me that feeling every time I buy a new coffee. And
Okay.
so that is kind of where it all kind of started to be like, I know I want this out of a coffee and I just want to keep finding it. And so, and it's fun for me. Like I love green coffee buying. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. And it is a skill, you know, like it's not like you could just, you know, I mean, you can just get online, buy a coffee, and that's cool. And a lot of people do it. I've done it, but it's different when you start looking for things and searching for things, and then you do it for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden people start sending you those things. And they're like, oh, okay, like I don't know why, but coffee gets landed at my door and it's exactly what I'm looking for. And I don't know if that's like, there's not a lot of people buying the coffees, and so there's a fewer group of people who will buy these coffees that producers are doing. I really don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but it's been cool to be able to work with people. And a lot of times it's producers we've been working with, and they're like, hey, we got this new coffee. We want you to have it because we know you've bought coffees like this in the past. So try it or whatever. And so that's been really fun. But yeah, that's it. It was like I'm always trying to chase that like, wow, this is coffee kind of thing, you know? So that's cool. But
Right
yeah,
on.
so that's kind of where that came from.
Great. So when you mentioned, tasting coffees like that, all the way back in 2018, obviously, necessity didn't start until like, 2 years ago. So at 2023.
Yeah.
So, was there a certain roaster or roasters even like in the US or beyond that inspired you?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So I think coffees that I'm like super a fan of, like I love Say, like out in New York. I think they buy some very fun coffees. I think Black and White has always bought really fun coffees. Um, yeah, they're like in that ballpark. Brandy Wine. They're buying coffees that are like pretty experimental that and they've all been doing them for quite a while. Um, and so those were coffees that I was drinking that were like that, and I'm like kind of nerdy, and so I look up the coffee, look up who it is, and then it just cuz like I was working at a cafe in Phoenix at the time. I was roasting and green buying for a cafe out there, and I was like, I need to find this coffee. And so I like WhatsApp slash Instagram DM and was like, hi, can I get some samples? So like, please send me some coffee. And that's kind of how my journey started with like, at least like these types of lots or these types of coffees was like just reaching out, like cold calling basically producers on Instagram or like the WhatsApp and just being like, hey, can I get like a sample pack of like the stuff you're doing? I'm super interested in it. And, like honestly, it took a while to get those to me. Like some people I just never heard of. And And like, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I'm just a random guy, like being like, send me
Give me
coffee.
some free stuff.
Yeah, give
Yeah.
me some free stuff. Yeah. But over time and like, I just kind of really kept at it. And these are the coffees I wanted. And I was like, why can't I buy these coffees? And all that's jazz. And, like there's a shop in Tucson called Presta. And like, they're big mentors for me. Like Curtis from this shop, in Tucson, has been a big mentor and a good friend of mine. And he's always been like buying coffees like this for as long as I can remember. And he really helped me. Like he really got me in this group. And like even before that, like Daniel from Dark Horse wasn't buying these coffees. That's who I worked with here, and like right after college, like right when they opened. That's kind of like where I started my coffee journey or whatever. Um, and he definitely wasn't buying these coffees when I was working for him, but he's just been such a close friend for so long that like I don't know why it is, and it shouldn't be like this for sure, but there is definitely a circle
Oh yeah.
of who gets what. And
Every industry is like that.
yeah, and I mean, I didn't know, and like I'm like little John, like didn't know these things, but like Curtis and Daniel and Mason from Luminous, like they were really um welcoming me to like the table, I guess. I don't know even if they think about it that way because they've been doing it for so
Yeah, I feel
long.
like if you're so, you're
But they were
long in the
like,
tooth.
hey, cup these coffees. Like I was like flying or driving out to Tucson to cup coffees because Curtis like was buying coffees and I needed to buy. He's like, you need to buy some of these coffees. So like come out. And so like now that's just like normal life for us. Like I'm like I grew up in Tucson, and so I've known him for a long time, and so that's like a regular thing we do. And so that's been really good. So he really helped me, and Daniel's been really good at getting me like FaceTime with producers that are doing really cool stuff. And now we're a couple years in, and it feels like I'm just like there, and I'm just like in it, and it's like I'm doing it, and like I'm getting offering lists that are insane that I'm like, whoa, this stuff is so cool, you know?
You said earlier that you were looking at a coffee that was like what, $90 a pound or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
There's a geisha that that'll come.
What's
Yeah.
going to be the retail?
I don't know. We're gonna serve them in small amounts. It'll be like a sample. Like, come sample this coffee.
Right on.
um, but yeah, I mean, that is a not a common coffee. Like
No,
that's insane.
no.
Like it's hard for me to like to even pull the trigger on something like that. But like when it's really good, it's like really good. So it's like it's cool. But anyway, I don't know if I lost track, but yeah, I think that is how I kind of got that journey. Is like people helping me get to that table. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and so, I think when I think back about the first times I was trying really like experimental processed coffees, definitely Brandywine was probably the first one. I can clearly remember, but also their bags and stuff really drew me in, like their design,
Yeah, I
the
love how
little
they
like
like
stamp
the
on there.
stamp. They like do like a new design for like every single bag. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming from, you know, working at a cafe roasting in Tucson, you mentioned, what motivated you to bring that, experience and that style of coffee to San Diego?
I was in Phoenix, living in Phoenix, working for a cafe, and Phoenix and like Arizona's coffee game, really fun. Like they're all about experimental lots, all about extended fermentation coffees, and like just finding wild stuff. And I just assumed when I moved back to San Diego, I'm like, man, I cannot wait to get to San Diego, see like what everyone is doing. Like if Phoenix, because it's like in my lifetime, it was always California kind of had the trend, and then it like kind of like got to Arizona, and we were like always like 6 months behind whatever was cool. And so I just assumed that was the same. And I'm like, wow, I cannot wait to see what like the cafes in San Diego are doing. So then when I moved back, I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. There is a huge window for me, a big door that like I'm open to. And I'm like, this I don't know. It's hard for me to be like, this town needs these coffees. Like they don't need the coffees. But there was room for them
I
for
know
sure.
100% what you mean. Like, what year did you get here?
2021.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like at San Diego's coffee scene, being part of it starting in like 2015 was definitely a more exciting place to be from 2015 to 2020. But the
100%.
pandemic really put people
Yeah.
in this like survival mode
Sure.
where they're like, stop buying the crazy coffees. We want to make sure we're like doing something that's super consistent that we can like make easily. People were trying to figure out how to like minimize staffing with like
Yeah.
reducing pour overs. Like all that stuff was happening in the background, and everyone's like focus was on just like trying to keep their business afloat. And I think that mindset sort of just stuck
Stuck
around.
100%. No, and it totally makes sense. Like it totally makes sense to like just like hunker down. Let's try to get through this thing that we really don't know like what it is, and we don't know how long it'll be. So I totally get that. But it was I think yeah, even like further back, like when I started at Dark Horse in like 2013, I was like their third employee, and it was like we were doing some pretty fun stuff. Like the energy was insane. Like the shop, like Coffee and Tea had opened a little bit before Dark Horse was opened, and like the like coffee scene was just fun. It was exciting, and like there was like events all the time, and people just wanted to like people were at work. People went to work when they weren't on bar. Like they like the culture. I think was like really high, and it was really fun. Um, and then I mean the pandemic changed a lot of things, and so I totally get it. But that being said, I came back into town after being gone for 5 years, and felt like there was an opportunity for me to like highlight some really cool coffees and offer some really cool things. Um, I also feel like my roasting style definitely fits those style coffees a lot. And so I learned how to roast those types of coffees. So I wanted to still roast those types of coffees. And so, um, yeah, I think I like and enjoy roasting that way. And so it was fun for me to find coffees that will shine in like the way that I roast or whatever.
For sure. So to move into that realm, when you talk about what's your I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Like your methodology when it comes to roasting. Like everyone tends to have some different approaches, but more or less like there are some things that obviously tend to be across the board,
Yeah.
but like approaching like charge temp and drop temp, everyone's got like, oh, I only drop, within 10 degrees of 400 or within 10 degrees of what I
Yeah.
charged at. And like people have these very specific things. Like, do you have any of those?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I think I hyperfixate on my rate of rise. I mean, I think that's mainly kind of like what I talk to people. Like I think roast curve is gonna do one. I mean, for the most part, it's only gonna go one way. It's gonna go down, it's gonna come back up and flatten out. Like
Mhm.
there's not too much change that happens in that kind of curve. And yeah, like different temperatures that you charge at, like the curve is different, and so I get that. I think I'm just like I want my coffees to steadily drop in a certain time frame at a certain temperature in a certain area of the roast or whatever. And so I don't know. I don't try to get too like sciencey about it, but I definitely have like development goals that I'd like to hit. And
Okay.
so whatever the temperature is at that point, it is what it is. Like it's fine. Like I try to shoot for a certain development time and percentage. And depending on the coffee, depending on where it's from, I mean, this is like, I feel like pretty classic kind of language, but like, yeah, it depends on like those coffees depend on how I charge and when do I drop and all that stuff. And so, I don't know. I think I'm like, I like what I do and I know exactly what I do, but it's kind of hard for me to be like, this is why I'm doing it or
Yeah.
whatever. And so it's like, I'm also like, hey, you drink it, you slurp it. If it's good, man. Let's go with it. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I don't know. I think there are a lot of people in the world who are very like scientific about it, which is great. It's awesome for like, doing things over and over again. And I think those are very important. Um, but I think we work with the same kind of coffees, the same kind of producers over and over again that like I kind of like I'm like, okay, I kind of know what this coffee is gonna do. And so let's try to do that. Or like, oh, this is a co-ferment. So like it's a co-ferment from the exact same producer around the same time in the same place. I'll run my sangria profile and see how that goes. Like
Sure.
I honestly like I just that's kind of what it is. And we cup and like I for at least like on the number that like of degrees that I'm trying to like stop at, I don't really care what it I mean, here's the thing. My rate of rise going into first crack is so low that like I'm never going to be anywhere near 400 degrees by the time I'm done. And I only do like a minute development time, so it doesn't really matter.
Wait, so I feel like this is also kind of getting into the weeds, but whatever. This is a coffee podcast. People probably know to a certain extent. So what is your rate of rise coming into first crack?
This morning for the coffees that I roasted, pretty much all of them, my rate of rise coming into first crack, 3, maybe.
Is that 30 seconds or 60?
Oh, every 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Every
That's not
15
too bad.
seconds, 3, right at first crack. And then I end at like 0.7, I guess, 0.8, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like there's I guess for people who maybe don't know what we're talking about, like rate of rise is like how much temperature you're gaining per second or per like a section of time, 3 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds. Everybody kind of does different measurements. I think I always went by like a 30 second or 15 second.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I there's always this belief too that I don't necessarily subscribe to. There's a lot of roasting opinions out there. And I think there's a lot of people who sell those opinions as though they are fact and truth.
100%.
And I don't think that's true.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
And there's like, oh, if you hit 0 on your rate of rise, you're then baking the coffee. And I understand the thought process.
I don't know. I get
But
pretty
I feel
close to
like-
0 in my development
Yeah.
stage, and I'm just like, tastes good.
Yeah. So it's like I don't really believe that that's. I mean, I think you can definitely fuck up a coffee, 100%.
Yeah, sure.
But and this is like the same conversation I've had. I'm probably with you and probably with a bunch of other people. But when it comes to roasting, I feel like the act of roasting is probably a lot more easy than people on the outside think it is.
That's why I'm like, I don't know how to be complicated about it because I don't know if it's that complicated.
Yeah.
Like it is, and I get that. And there's like the people who, like I said, there's the people who are very sciencey about it, and the people who are like, let's just rock and roll, And I don't know. My approach is I always want to learn. Someone wants to talk to me about something and teach me something. Cool.
But they want to charge you.
But they want to, yeah.
few hundred dollars
If they
an
charge
hour.
me a couple of $100 an hour, then I probably won't do it. But I'm always there, and I always want to be present and learn. And because I got a lot to learn, And so, but I also don't think it's that complicated, and I don't think there's hard, fast rules. Like I think it is what it is, and like I met Joe Morocco. Is it Joe Morocco?
Something like that.
At SCA this time, and this is the first time I ever met him. But that's how he has this little school online on YouTube. If you want to learn how to roast,
Oh, that was Mill City.
Mill City, yeah.
I
He was
watched
like the
that really
teacher.
early on.
Yes, he's awesome, and I think him, and like I can't pronounce his last name, but Rob Who's okay. They're like some of my the most helpful people in the sense of they really know what they're talking about, and they've had a lot of experience, but boy, do they make it super welcoming and super like it's easy to learn. And I think there are other people out there that make it a little bit daunting, a little bit harder to understand. And I just think that is hard to come into something that you don't really know about. And like, what am I supposed to like know? Like, a bunch of biology about the seed and like then understand what's it doing. And like, it's just so much easier. I just had really good success with those guys and
Same.
reading their
Yeah.
books and watching their YouTube videos and making me feel like, oh yeah, I can do this.
I
And
took a
like,
class from Rob when he came to San Diego a while back.
that's awesome.
This was like years and years ago, like maybe 2018, 2019, somewhere in that range, at West Bean, way
That's
back when.
cool.
But yeah, I'm with you. I like Rob quite a bit. I like Joe quite a bit. When I first was getting into roasting, I watched that roaster school top to bottom, and there was some things that I felt were left out.
Sure.
Like I was hoping to kind of like I watched it somewhere, no matter how many times I watched it, I was like, I still don't know like where I should charge my coffee. Like they didn't really give you the information.
Yeah.
They didn't step by step it.
Yeah.
And I think they do it for a reason, because that's something that you have to kind of learn on your
Yeah.
own.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a scary thing too, coming into it. People like, oh, you're going to be roasting now. And the guy who was roasting who I took over for, his process of roasting was put green beans in, drop brown beans out, and that was it. Like there was no
Set it and forget it, baby.
They had all the nice stuff. They had a Dietrich, they had Cropster, but they didn't actually pay attention to any of those things.
What a bummer.
And I was just like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And I had known Siri forever, who was roasting for Lofty for forever at that time. And so I had to like pick her brain and like find other people like Matt, who was also roasting Lofty before Siri. I also like started sending him DMs, and I was just trying to like figure out, but you have to like kind of learn your own style and learn your own approach.
You have to learn your own machine. I've roasted on so many different roasters, and like, and it like depends. Like if I'm roasting in Tucson or in Phoenix, it's different than if I'm roasting right next to the ocean. Like, so it's like, it's hard for like on a video for someone to be like, and this is the right number. And it's like, well, they don't really know what the right number is depending on where you're at or how you want to roast or whatever. And so like, yeah, so I think there is definitely like a reason for it, but that's also why I liked it so much. Cause it was like, okay, I can just figure it out. And also like my situation before versus now, like I roast at a co-op. And so time is money, you know? So like,
For sure.
I can't play that much, but like earlier in my time of roasting, it's like, okay, the things like, or how I would find like my charge temp, you know? And it's like, okay, I don't want to scorch and I don't want to tip. Okay. But I need a lot of energy because I got a lot of coffee. So like, when I have the time and the ability to just like do a bunch of batches, I would do a bunch of batches and I would just keep charging up and I would just keep getting hotter and hotter. Yeah. And I would look at every single coffee and I would say, where am I at? And do I like the ending outcome? And that's kind of like where I would approach like finding a charge temp, you know, it's like if you have the time and the coffee to just roast, you know, just get to know your machine. And for me, I like a lot of energy up front. And so I'm going to give it as much energy as I can without affecting the actual product, you know? And so I don't know, that's like kind of like my approach to at least a charge temp. And then I really like steady ROR. And I usually do about anywhere between 45 seconds to a minute and 5 seconds of development. Anywhere between, you know, 9.5 to 10% development time. And it works for me. Another thing that, and it goes back to like why I like green buying so much is like, it really matters what you buy.
That's
and what
a huge
you put
one,
in.
for sure.
Like you can try to roast the best that you can roast and you could be like an amazing roaster. And if you're buying a $2, $3 coffee, good luck. Or I guess in today's world, if you're buying a $4, $5 coffee, you know, good luck. Like it's really hard to get a lot out of a coffee in that category, you know? And I don't know, maybe this is why a little bit why, but like, man, I can mess up a roast on a really nice coffee and it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that like I think I was kind of going down that path earlier because I feel like I've talked to you about this, and I know I've talked to other people where they ask me about roasting, and I say roasting it's like any culinary adventure. right? You're not going to get anything better out than what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ingredients matter.
100%.
It's just like brewing coffee, because coffee is between 98 and whatever percent water. Like you can't put shitty water in. So why would you put shitty green coffee in and expect something good to come out?
Yeah.
Like it's just not how it works.
So buy a really nice green coffee if you can. Cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to do it for sure, because it just makes it that much easier. I remember like when I was starting to roast and I had to work through all the coffee that the previous roaster bought, and he bought based on price point.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just, and I was looking at this green, I'm like, I'm not a green grader, but this coffee looks awful. Like there was an Indonesia that they had that was like basically just a bag of pieces.
Oh no.
I'm like, what is this? And it was the most expensive coffee that they had.
Oh no.
It was like $6 a pound. I was like, you're getting ripped off. And so I had to like confront the guy who was selling the green to them, who eventually turned out to be some kind of fraudster, because he like disappeared with a bunch of money and people were like looking for him.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was like he was like third partying the green selling to us. And so he was like finding out what we wanted, and he would go to another trader and buy that coffee and then put his markup on it and then sell it to the company. I was crazy.
That is crazy.
And so I figured it out, and I was like, we're not buying from this guy anymore. Yeah. And so then finally I started getting, I got the owners to agree to like buy some like, $5 to $6 a pound, like just for like a single origin or two, and like brought in a really nice Ethiopia. And it was just like, I was beating my head against the wall trying to make these coffees taste good, and I just couldn't do it. And then this first roast on this natural Ethiopia, I was like,
this is so good.
It's like blueberry pancakes. Yeah. Like you can't even compare them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So where it starts, it really makes a difference.
100%. And starting with like as many green sellers as possible. I feel like that's always a good thing too. To like have your standard few, but like, don't be afraid to get a bag or two from, different ones. Cause I feel like it always helps to have connections. Some places have access to very specific coffees or work very specifically. Like I always worked with Onyx, not to be confused with Onyx Coffee Lab, but I think they specialize in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would get like very nice Guatemalans from them.
We buy all our Guatemalans from Onyx.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like that was, it's always good to have that spread.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, we're like definitely at a place now where we definitely just work with specific people now, in certain areas. So like all of our guats, I get coffees sent to me a lot, and I'll cup everything, and we'll buy whatever we like or whatever. But for the most part, when it comes to harvest cycles, I start like in these spots. So I use Selva for Costa Rica. I use Onyx for Guatemala. I use, Colombia is a little different because there's just so many producers doing so many crazy stuff. So we'll work like the handful of producers there. But like generally we have like our staples. And part of that too is like the more we work with somebody, the sooner they'll tell us coffee is ready,
True.
And the sooner we get to the cream of the crop, like the best stuff out there. And so like, I remember someone telling me, asking like, where did you find these coffees? Like from what importer? And they're like, yeah, if you're waiting till it gets here, all the good stuff is gone. And so like now all we do is forward book. We're just buying coffee before it even is like
finished. On a boat.
Yeah. And so like, and that's the thing is like all the best coffee is sold before it gets to the US. It's already stamped with someone's name on it.
A lot of it's not even going to the US.
And a lot of it's not going to the US. Yeah. It's like we started working with a couple producers that are mainly in Europe. And now we're trying to bring some of these coffees into the US. And like, we're definitely like not the like people who are starting it, but like there aren't a lot of people down the list before it hits us to the like bring coffees from like Sebastian Ramirez and like all these like wildly known producers in Europe that are not really known here in the US. And so it's been that's been the cool stuff is like being able to bring coffees in like that where I can like literally look at you and say, there's 3 people in the US that have this coffee, and the other 2 are on the East Coast, or
Yeah.
like far away from here. And so, like, come and try the coffee. And so, that's like one thing is like, I feel like I'm lucky enough to have gotten to a place to be at the table for those kinds of coffees. And that's what I get excited about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so to take a hard turn here, well, not super hard, but I want to talk about menu design because I feel like that's one of the things that drew me into necessity as well. Like obviously the coffee is, great, but y'all are always coming up with very unique drinks, and not all of them obviously are coffee centric. Some of them are tea and stuff like that. And when I first came in, I think one of the first times I went over there, and you're like, "Oh, we're doing we do a new menu every like month or two," and I'm like, "Jesus, that's like a lot, man."
We've put out a lot of drinks in 2 years.
And so what kind of how do you approach creating those drinks, and because you do it so frequently?
Mm-hmm. We have like a backbone, so like we do put out a lot of menu. Like our menu changes every 6 weeks, but the category doesn't. So we always have a sparkling tea, we always have a coffee soda, we always have a signature cappuccino, and we always have it's usually like a herbal based beverage, that's like a special non-caffeinated drink or whatever. And then so I have a partner named Curtis Northam. He is our drink development person, and he is just really good at coming up with drinks. It's he's been like that. I've known him since college, and he's always been just like he has a good palate, and I think also like why and how we do it is also Kurt's really good, and we both work really hard at building beverages together. But the main one is we're the bosses. Like we don't have someone saying no. Like there was a time where we put out an espresso Bloody Mary, and it was a legit Bloody Mary with just a shot of espresso in it. And we made the whole thing, and it was wild. And we made our first batch, and we said, well, either people will drink it or we'll drink it, but we're doing it because we want
vodka in
to.
it?
No, just like a Bloody Mary mix.
Okay.
And then our espresso in it. And
you know what? I feel like there's lots of weird combinations out there. I've seen people like putting kiwi juice and orange juice, and like I just don't see how that would be good. But like, tomato juice is like that's a wild one.
It is. It was wild. It was very wild. And literally we were like, maybe no one will buy it, but we get to do it because we get to make the choice. And I think that's where it starts with like how many drinks we can put out and how crazy they can be. It's because we really don't have anyone being like, sorry, man, that's crazy. No one's going to buy that. And we're just kind of like, well, we want to do it. We can do it. And it was insane. We couldn't keep up with how many Bloody Marys we made because so many people like Bloody Marys.
Wait, when was this?
Last summer, I think.
I don't remember this.
It was, yeah. And so first, I think Curtis has an insane palate and he creates a lot of great drinks. 2, we don't have anyone saying no to our crazy ideas.
It's helpful.
Yeah. And so I think those ones, and then people want them. People like, we've probably put out more drink renditions than most cafes in San Diego that are 10 years old because we change so often.
I'd say that's probably true.
And like, I get bored. And so we need to change it. I'm like, I want another coffee soda. I want something new. Like right now our coffee soda has like Idaho hops, lime, like a sweetener and a Ethiopian flash brew. And it tastes like a freaking beer. And it is so good. And it's so fitting for San Diego because San Diego is such like a beer town that like, it's just so good. And when people's eyes light up because they're like, this is crazy. And I'm like, sick. Like, it's cool, And so, yeah. So that's kind of like where it's at is like I think, and like, we are never like, and Curtis would say this hands down, he is never inventing a wheel. There's nothing new out there. Like, it's not like we're like making up something that no one has ever thought of before. It's like we are very inspired by tiki beverages, so we have a lot of tiki beverages. Coffee is acidic. Acidity goes well together. Let's put those things together. I think what is what the difference is a strong palate and knowing that you can't just throw ingredients in and it'll be good. There's got to be good ratio. There's got to be like good balance. And I think like Kurt and I are really good at that. And I think he's awesome at knowing how much of what should be in something. And so, yeah, I mean, Curtis is like the brain behind like a lot of our drink development, and I'm super grateful for him and thankful for him, and he's amazing. And yeah, he has fun doing it, so it's cool. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's a fun aspect. I did it a little bit when I worked at a cafe, but not a ton. But I do think it is a fun aspect of the coffee and cafe experience. But I still think about the current
current cap. Ooh.
Yeah. I think
the current caps were good.
I've had one other drink that I feel like hit a very similar note that I really, really liked recently, and that was at Series Color Magic pop-up.
The rhubarb?
Yeah, like rhubarb and orange blossom and something else is in there. And I was like, this hits the same notes for me because I love like that little bit of sourness. I think rhubarb is really underutilized, and so is currant, like in American
totally
like culinary circles. It's just not something that you see, but it always hits. Like my mom used to make rhubarb crumble growing up.
Oh.
And I just like loved
memories.
that. Yeah, like that flavor.
Cool.
And so just, that's the slight sourness, but the sweetness in the mix. And like, I remember I went by, I think it was right after the current cap was off the menu. And I don't think you were there, but Kurt was there. And I was like, I tried the new cap and I was like, it's good, but it's no current cap.
Yeah.
And he was like, hold on a second. And he gave me like a container.
A deli of it?
Yeah, like a deli. He's like, this is all we have left. Here you go.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I like took it home and I cherished that shit.
Dude. Hey, we'll give you the recipe.
I love it, dude, because I feel like I was putting that in sparkling water and like making sodas. Dude, I was just like,
it doesn't fail. Good. It is very good. Yeah. Yeah. The craziest one, like cap version that like was wild is like we made like is like heavy on the miso. It's like we made our own caramel miso syrup, and it was like salty and sweet and savory, and like it just had like everything. But when I would make it, I'm just like, we're putting this. It's just like very salty in a coffee. But
I had that ruled. One. I feel like I had that one, and it was like when I looked at all the ingredients, I was like, but it was very like drinkable and mild. Like it wasn't
the balance.
It didn't like punch you. Like it wasn't heavy on the miso. Like you got the finish.
You got it.
Like,
yeah.
It was there, but it wasn't like up front.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think miso is also one of those things. It's like, I think it's getting more and more attention, but it's also, it's pretty versatile. Like, especially depending, like I got a white miso over Thanksgiving because I was making like miso braised onions and stuff for the family.
Sounds good.
Like those little, like smaller onions.
The pearls.
Yeah. Nice. And they were really good. And we had some left over and I like just like tasted it on its own. And I was like, the white miso is like,
it's the calmest of the misos.
Yeah, it's very mild. Yes. I was like, you could put that into some stuff and make something pretty good out of this.
We use that one because of that. It's like, this is like the most easygoing miso you can have.
You can get it from Trader Joe's, and theirs is like, it's not great. It's a little thin, but like if you were going to make it into like a base, like it'd be very easy for that.
Yeah. But, yeah. That drink ruled. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. But still the current cap.
The current cap.
Hey,
it rules.
It's up there. It's up
right
there
now,
me.
yeah. I mean, our crowd favorite is the date. That's why we have it back.
That's what I figured because it came back. Dates are great. I love, very caramely, very sweet. I'm not a hater.
Works I think great with an espresso.
I feel like I do remember the date cap as well, but for some reason the current one hit for me.
Yeah. I mean, the current one was so good we moved it into our coffee soda like directly after. We're like, we can't stop this yet. Let's just move it to our coffee soda.
It was really good.
Yeah.
But there's also something for, the purists. Because when I go there, usually my partner, she'll get the, like, whatever cap is new. Sometimes I will, but most often I'll get, like, an espresso. And and a sparkling tea, which I always love like an iced sidecar. Like give me
Same.
something hot like an espresso and
Let
give
me
me like an
finish it with
iced.
cold.
Yeah.
Same.
Whenever I go like basically anywhere, I'll get like an iced whatever their current matcha whatever is. I'll get that iced and get an espresso. But I think that one of the things I really like about necessity is the variety. Like every coffee you have, you'll do on espresso. I feel like oftentimes you'll get a choice of maybe two, and oftentimes just their blend, and that's all you get.
Yeah. Yeah. All coffees, all ways, we say. Yeah. It's our little
Like Burger
slogan.
King.
Yeah. I like her. Have it your way. Yeah. We just kind of like, I think it comes back from like us working in the industry for so long and always wanting to go to a cafe and being like, oh, you have this coffee. Oh, can we get this coffee? And they're like, it's just retail. And I'm like, well, how do I know I want to buy it? Or I want this coffee, from a commercial machine, from people who are, supposedly dedicated to this job and have dialed it in. But so that was like our big one was like, we need to serve every coffee we offer, we have to serve as an espresso, pour over espresso. And then it kind of trickles down to like, we get a lot of 1-in-1s, a ton of 1-in-1s. And then we tend to not, we like cap it at the cap. People are like, can I get this in a latte? I'm like, that's a $10 glass of milk you're buying. Like, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. But yeah, it's fun to be able to offer every coffee as an espresso because I would drink that coffee as a pour over and I will drink it as, just like I was telling you about the Mexico. It is a delicious pour over. That same coffee is outstanding as an espresso. And so like if we never pulled it as an espresso, how would we know how good it could be or like how good we could offer it to somebody? And so, yeah, so every coffee goes through the dial-in process for every area. So, yeah.
Well, that brings me to like a thing I posted today too, because I feel like there's even now within specialty and like, specifically I got that DAC coffee. And I see it a lot on coffees specifically outside of the US, like Asia, Europe, that they put like a designation of what brew method it's designed for. I don't necessarily buy into that. I don't necessarily think that they mean like you have to do it that way. But I just feel like when you roast a coffee, there's always a way you can make it taste good, regardless of the brew method, if you're willing to do the work.
Yes. Or for me, it's regardless of the development.
Yeah.
I think like I see that a lot. Yeah, like filter espresso. And I say, tell me why you're doing this.
About 30 seconds more development time.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm just kind of like, no, you can just give me the light roast. I'll figure it out. We don't get that many people now, but some people are like, oh, is this your espresso blend? And we're just like, actually, we pretty much roast everything the same and you can have it any way you want. And there's no difference. So I stand right next to you when I don't get why they do that or whatever. But I think all coffee can be brewed and made well if you put some energy into it or whatever.
Yeah, understand the variables, understand how to minimize acidity or how to maximize whatever you're trying to pull out of it. It's just like the science bit. That's when that comes in, and understanding, the variables of the process.
Yeah, and maybe we've just been in it so long that we're like, oh yeah, if I want it to taste this way, I'm going to add more agitation or I'm going to do less agitation and yada, yada, or whatever. But like, yeah, I think we can get to a sweet spot with any coffee, like people who like make coffee or whatever. Like, I think you can achieve that sweet spot.
100%.
So, yeah.
I think that, it's, you see how people approach different coffees too. And you're just sort of like, I would definitely buy a coffee and then people be like, oh, you're going to brew that on espresso? Like, that's crazy. And just like, why?
Why? No, yeah. Why?
What? I just like, and I think espresso too is one of those things. And it's funny because you can have a really well dialed in espresso and I will taste it and be like, this tastes like, insert delicious thing here. I will take that coffee and I will hand it to like my sister. Be like, this tastes so good. And she's like, this just tastes burnt and terrible. Because espresso is one of those things you have to train yourself to taste and in most cases to like, because it is so intense and just so like in your face that you kind of have to, I don't know, you have to develop a palate for it. I don't think, I don't know if anybody who tried espresso for the first time was like, I love this.
Yeah.
Let me drink more of this. It's not really like an acquired taste, but it kind of is. Like you have to put in the work
Yeah.
because most people, I feel like when you start in coffee, and like I was the same way when I first got an espresso machine, I was not really drinking much, if any, straight espresso. I was always having like a latte
Mm-hmm.
and then sort of like then a cappuccino and then a cortado and then
Working your way
a
down.
macchiato.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I was like drinking espresso.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes down to also understanding the, you know, how to brew and the brewing variables and really like dialing that skill in and having something that tasted good. But, you know, I also think that that's just sort of the normal trajectory.
Yeah. I think like for us, yeah, I don't know. For us, we like we also pull crazy our brewery. Like I've never worked anywhere where we brew the way that we brew. Like even down to our espresso. Like when like there's like people who really enjoy coffee that come to the shop because they looked at our menu somewhere and we're like, we had to come here, and we start to dial in. They're like, how many grams are you putting in and how many grams are you putting out? And people are just like shocked when we're like, yeah, we're putting 22 grams in, we're pulling out 100 grams out. And they're like, what? And I'm just like, it's what the coffee needs, you know? And like, and they're like, but in how long? And I'm like, in
7 years.
Yeah, 15 seconds. Yeah. Like, I think, honestly, I think the pandemic and the home barista life kind of has creeped into our cafe in the sense of like, we're like doing turbo shots all the time. And it also is like when we're doing like a double anaerobic coffee, you know, a 1-to-2 ratio is going to be really intense. And if you're going to pay up to, you know, $6 to $12 for an espresso, like I would rather have 100 grams to sit with and like really enjoy it. And
I'm
it's
not
like,
necessarily in that same boat, as you know.
oh, I know. That's
a
why I
short
was
shot
kind of
guy.
like, how do I communicate? Because I think that's where we are different very much. I think like you like it seems like a more traditional ratio is what you aim for.
I like body generally in my espresso quite a bit more than like clarity,
Yeah.
I feel like. And so I tend to lean more towards shorter than
Mhm.
longer.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had like, well, I have had 100-gram shots like Lungos, I guess, in the past. Oftentimes it really, really depends on the coffee.
Oh,
Like
wait, I think it definitely depends on the
yeah.
coffee because, like our house espresso,
I
we
don't
do a
think
1-to-2.
that wouldn't be,
It would be it would be terrible.
It's got to be like a
1-to-4.
pretty light, take a while to really like, you know, pull all those flavors out. But sometimes I'll get one and people pull a longer shot and I'm just like, this just tastes like espresso water.
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I hate Americanos.
Oh yeah, same.
Can't
stand
it's just not good.
I just think like, yeah, so that's why it's like it is very, that's why we dial in every single coffee, you know, and like, and at this point now we start those kind of experimental lots or like extended fermentations. We just start them long because we just have brewed enough and pulled enough shots of these types of coffees to know that like a 1-to-2 isn't going to work. But yeah, I carry less body and more clarity. Like definitely, so we aim for that, you know. And like we like body. There's still body in the coffee, but it definitely leans a little bit heavier on the clarity. And so a longer shot works that like well for that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on the coffee. It all depends on like what the coffee is and how it was like how you want it to be prepared for or whatever. But because we would, yeah, I don't think I'd ever pull our like house espresso at a 1-to-4. It just would be like super just gross.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be good.
Would not be
I
good.
don't think it'd be good. But no, I mean, I think that I'm not going to go into a shop and demand that they make their shot the way I want them to make it or anything like.
No,
I
totally.
trust that they have specifically done this for a
Figured it
reason,
out. Yeah.
and so like I definitely have had good all good shots at Necessity. So it's not like it's a thing that has to happen. But I also do find it funny because I feel like oftentimes I go into shops and not naming names, but I'll order an espresso and they'll be back there pulling shots and like trying to really dial it in. And I'll go to Necessity and I'll order like one of the 5 coffees off the menu and they'll just throw, 18, 20 grams, whatever, into the EK and pull a shot and hand it to me. And it's good, So maybe that's, the testament to the roasting. Maybe that's a testament to, I think, the green coffee that went in. The barista, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
it
it's
definitely
interesting
is
how that
all of
works.
it. We definitely have a dial. We have a dial in for every single coffee, so we're not just throwing it in because we've like pulled a bunch of shots of that coffee and on the EK and figured out where it needed to
Yeah.
be. But I do think we do that because we do think part of the experience is not like waiting forever to get a coffee. It's
I
like
think that, yeah, there's something to waiting a long time. I just find it so funny that like there is a dynamic between the wait and expectation,
Mhm.
and you have to kind of meet that somewhere in the middle because if I'm waiting for a long time and I'm watching the barista dial in and sip and stir and like make micro adjustments on the
Yeah.
grinder, I'm like, oh, this shot's gonna be so good, and then it won't meet that expectation because you just
Oh,
waited so
I think
long.
the opposite usually.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm like, man, if
I'm like, this
you're
dish is gonna be dialed. This is gonna be
oh,
perfect.
for
That's
me,
what I
I'm
think.
like, if you're trying to figure this out now for some random guy, that means you don't care. You should have it dialed in for everybody. And so if you're like working on it, I'm like, you just you don't care enough.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
just
like
yeah.
you like they see someone and they're like, oh man, Ace is here. I gotta make it good. And so they work so hard. I'm like, well, work that hard for everybody and just have it dialed in and get it out the door. And like again, our shots that we pull that are like that come out like timing is a big deal to us. So like could it be better? Possibly. But is it pretty still pretty damn good? Definitely.
Yeah.
And again, comes back to what you buy. Buy good green and everything else is just a little bit easier.
Yep.
Trickles all the way
100
down the line.
100%.
It'll always come back to buy good green. And I'm like a big advocate for this right now. Like right now we're doing this series where we're bringing importers to the cafe and we're doing roasting cupping. So we're inviting just people in San Diego who roast. We're saying, come drink these coffees, buy these coffees, because the more people who carry a higher quality coffee, the better it is for everybody, And so
Rising
like,
tide.
yeah. And so we've done now, this will be our second. We've got 2 more in the books from importers that we really like that are coming to the cafe and holding a cupping with offerings that they have currently that are available. And it really does like I don't want to like keep saying it, but like I guess I do want to say it until like we change, until we start raising the bar a little bit more. But I think it's important and like
They just don't know fruit.
yeah, I don't know. Oh my gosh, that was
Deep cut.
deep cut.
That's an inside joke.
Okay, yeah, that was yeah. But yeah, so like I think that it's a timing thing and it's also what I buy I believe in and I'm confident in and we've taken the time not during service to figure out where this coffee should be ground at or whatever. But yeah. So
I also feel like EK shots are rare.
I feel like they weren't that much back in the day.
No,
I'm
they
like,
were popular for
I
a
remember
minute, but
like
I don't catch them very often anymore.
yeah, I guess I mean I guess I just think there's not a lot of people not serving one espresso or like a blend and a decaf, or maybe they're offering a single origin espresso. But so I don't think people are like just pulling them because
There's not really any more commercial single dose grinders.
yeah,
I think the EK was kind of it.
There's a PK 100. It's a single dose
Okay.
that I like. But yeah, there aren't a lot of like commercial single dose grinders now.
And the EK used to have the two head where you could have like one side could be like filter and one side could be
Yeah.
espresso or the Turkish burrs.
Ooh,
And you could do both. I think Mnemonic has a double side,
they
don't they?
do.
It's a
Yep.
very rare. You don't see
Yeah,
them anymore.
no.
But there was for a minute everybody had EKs.
Yeah, I bought one in Phoenix, and we were doing that same thing. One side was kind of like our like filter batch brew, cold brew, and one was just like, hey, this is aligned for espresso, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, I remember like C&T downtown, they only ran on a dual EK, and they like it was sick. It was cool, you know, like
Popping off.
but yeah, I guess I don't know. We like it. It works for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that opens up, like I said, a lot of doors. Everybody's using hoppers in cafes for just the speed and efficiency. And I think just like everything else we talked about when it comes to cafes and coffee, like there's a balance, right? Speed and efficiency should be a priority, but it is not like the only priority. And I think having the ability to brew every single coffee on your menu in any way you want it is a pretty big benefit.
Yeah.
And not one that I see frequently, or really, I don't think I can name another shop that I know of that does it.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, come to Necessity.
Yeah. That's funny. I have a friend who's he's in Orange County, friend of the show, Tom. And we always talk about random shit. Like we met actually via YouTube, and then he followed me on Instagram, and we shoot messages back and forth.
Mhm.
But oftentimes we talk about like gardening or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But he shot me a message today, and he's like, "Hey, if you need any help, like setting up your garden or whatever, like let me know. I'm looking for an excuse
so
to go back to Necessity." And
It's cool.
I was like,
Yeah, nice.
because we met there.
Yeah,
because
he made the 3D.
Yeah, he 3D printed the little cover for this.
Yeah.
and
Was
then
it the bellows or just a lid?
It's just a lid for the tank.
Okay, sick.
Because this thing's like open up top, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's right.
And if you
I remember
look
that.
at it, like I dust it every day, but it's like dusty again. It's just like, do I want that in my water? Not really.
Yeah.
So I sent him like the measurements, and he
That's
made,
cool.
and we met there, and I was like, here's a grinder.
Yeah.
Take the thing. It's just like, got so many grinders, man. If anyone's looking for one, shoot me a message. But yeah, so it's just kind of, it's a good place to meet.
Another thing about our flow and being able to offer a lot of things is we batch so many of our beverages. So it allows us to have the time to do a lot of different things. So like we got like at least 6 items that are just ready to go. And we do that for that, for your weight, but it also is like I don't have to like mix a bunch of things to make a beverage, and also you want an espresso, and also you want to pour over, and it's like the time just starts to get really big, and so
yeah, you've got stuff on tap,
Yeah.
and you've got stuff in pitchers and stuff like that. Yeah, I've noticed it definitely like goes pretty quickly, and again, that adds to not only the ability of the folks behind the counter to free them up to do other things, but also frees them up to like be more hospitable.
totally.
So you're not like essentially stuck behind a machine focused on measuring out
Yep.
incremental little bits of whatever is going in the drink.
And it
And you can be like, "How's your
ensures
day
like
going?"
every drink is just spot on, because we're not looking down at the long line and being like, this is fine, and just like moving on. It's like we're batching and knowing, all right, this entire keg will taste the same because we made it at the one time and we tested it and it is good. And that way, like, it's easier for our staff because they're like, cool, it's solid, it's going to be good. We can just send it out. We don't have to think about it because we pre-batched it. We've all had it. We've all given it the go. It's good. And so it's like, I don't know, there's just a lot of benefits to like building a menu that is batchable. And so like quality, time, efficiency, you name it. It's just like, it just works for kind of us. And part of that is just like working in different places and learning that and picking those things up and just realizing, oh yeah, this works. I'm gonna do this one day. And so
Yeah, for sure. I think as a consummate consumer of cafe experiences, I feel like there's a lot of cafes that have a lot to learn when it comes to like efficiency
yeah.
and understanding how things, because oftentimes I'll order food too, and then the food will come out like 10 minutes before like the drink. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what's happening back
Yeah.
there?
How do I
What's
have
going
this
on?
cooked food before I have this
Yeah.
liquid? Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? What's going on in there? I'm always very confused by that dynamic, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of places that I visit that are sort of fall into that realm.
Hmm.
So I think it's a skill definitely, and it's also one of those things too. It can depend on who's working and how they, who's managing, who's running the show. But it must be easy because I saw the other day you had Siri and a couple of people who don't normally work there
Yeah.
working there.
Yeah. Yeah. When we went to Houston, we called in the troops and we had a lot of friends come in. And yeah, and part of that is, efficiency and structure and batching and trying to be like, we also did a limited menu to make it easier for them.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of it is like having really nice, like, stuff set up to be like, all right, if you have any thought of what and where, it's in the binder. Like, just go look it up.
Gotta
You
have a
can see it.
binder.
You gotta have the binder, like having stuff figured out. And part of it is like they're helping us. So
Mhm.
like we they basically didn't have to make anything for 3 days. They're just like, they just had to work
Pull
it,
shots
yeah,
and
pull
stand at the
shots
register.
and pull a lever and hand it out. And so like, I think Curtis and I are really good at trying to say like, okay, people are being extra helpful to us and allowing us to like go somewhere. How do we make this work seamlessly or like really comfortable for people who really haven't really worked in our cafe ever but are doing us like a huge solid. And so like all those thoughts and all of those like steps just kind of have to be in place for us to be like, okay, we feel good leaving people there because we know, not because we're like, okay, now we've made all the drinks so they can't mess it up, but that we know that they're going to be able to not have to think so much more about making beverages versus being super helpful to the people who are coming and like experiencing the shop or whatever and be like, hi, we're new, but like, here you go. And then people are like, oh, wow, cool. This is great. Thank you. Like they still got the drinks that they wanted and they had a good time. And so, yeah. So yeah, we're big prep guys. So if we can do it before, we will.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, it works for us at least, yeah.
And you guys have definitely made that little like corner that I feel like no one generally went down before.
No,
Like I
no,
feel like that
not at all.
they're at the end of this. It's a dead end street, and at the end is like it looks just like an industrial. I don't know what it
It is.
is.
We're like next to a smog shop and an auto parts shop and a plumber's like a city plumbing company repair shop. Like it's insane. It's a crazy spot, but we can afford it, so it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. But then I feel like over the couple of years that I've been going there, like it's been harder and harder to find parking, and every time I go in there, there's more and more people there. So
Yeah.
people are showing up.
Yeah. My accountant, keeps saying, I don't know how you guys are making it in that alley. And I said, me neither, man.
But you're moving, I guess.
But we're moving. Yeah.
So
We're moving to a new spot still in Encinitas, but we've put in our work, we've saved our money, and we've got a nice shiny spot coming soon, which is good. So yeah, around, end of summer, we'll have a new cafe. We're gonna move the one out of the alley into the new space, which is I'm very excited. And it's like, wow, like this is like when I imagined what we're in now is amazing. And I would never be able to be where I'm at today if I didn't take this space. And that's a lot of it comes down to like finances, like as a barista growing up and having a dream to own my cafe, it's really hard to get there because life's expensive and like things cost a lot of money. And being able to find that spot in an area that we feel was able to I knew we were going to sell coffees that were expensive. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I knew we were going to sell coffees that were like really seemed to be a little bit on the higher spot. And I live in North County, and I really like North County. And so I wanted to put our first cafe like up there. And so we found a spot we could afford, and we built the cafe with our bare hands, and we're not builders. There are a lot of
Preppers.
flaws. Yeah, where there's a lot of flaws in that space, but it's amazing and it's beautiful, and it got us now to the cafe that I have been like really wanting for a long time. Like, I'm very excited for this new space. I'm excited for the hard work that we've put in to get us to this space, and I'm excited for people to see it and excited to serve people, and it's going to be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen pictures you posted of like just the bones of the space, and it looks very different from the current space, but it looks big, like it looks expansive.
Yeah, it is bigger than what we're in now, but 600 square feet. You got to get something at least a little bigger.
For sure.
Yeah, it is bigger. We'll have a full pretty much a full kitchen, which is really cool. We'll expand like our food offerings and stuff
That's
like
what I
that,
wanna
which
hear.
is really exciting. And it's just, yeah, it's going to be really pretty. And the company we're working with, that like our architect company, they're really amazing and really creative and really imaginative, and they have designed a really fun space for us. So I'm excited to see it come to life. So
Awesome. Me
yeah.
too. Yeah, I feel like this is one of those things that I feel like I hear myself saying. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before, but a cafe that serves really good coffee and really good food is such a rarity. I feel like you usually get one or the other. Like if you get good coffee, you're getting like some basic pastry program,
Yeah.
which I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a sucker for a good pastry, but like I want like a proper, like I can make great coffee at home.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to go and get it. But what I want to go out and get is like a good meal, like
Yeah.
some good food. And I feel like San Diego doesn't have a ton of those. Like again, there's one or the other
Yeah.
that you're getting. I feel like the only place that I've experienced that, like really high level food and really high level coffee, is Proud Mary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I went to the Portland one last summer. I think I went there like every day I was
Yeah.
in Portland.
When I was in Portland for an expo, that was the first expo I ever went to, and I got my Airbnb within walking distance of like
Nice.
Proud Mary, and all the cafes are on that street, like the Arts District, I think is what it's called. And I was like, oh, I'll go to Proud Mary, and I went to Proud Mary the first day, and I was like, well, I'll be back.
Yeah, right.
tomorrow.
I think that's how I felt too. Yeah, and like, man, the way they like serve you your coffee, and the way, yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like what they do. They're really
I'm a
fun.
fan of Proud Mary.
Yeah, same.
But anyway, I think that's, we got an hour and 23 minutes on the books. It goes fast.
Yeah, it does
It
go
goes
fast. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course.
This was a treat, and love hanging with you.
Same,
This
man.
is cool.
Where can people find you online?
Necessitycoffee.com. If you want to find me on Instagram, or the cafe on Instagram, it's necessity.coffee. And yeah, come visit us. We'd love to have you. We'd love to show you what we're doing and host you, and yeah, it'd be cool.
100%.
Cool,
If
cool,
you're ever
cool.
in San Diego, I feel like that's like the one. I get that DM a lot where people are like, oh, what cafes do you recommend? And I find myself, if you've sent me that message, you've heard of Necessity, because it's usually in the list. I was like, it's a bit of a drive from San Diego proper. I don't know where you're staying, but like,
it's a little north.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. They drive the coast.
Yeah,
It's
drive the
pretty.
101. It's very nice, and then grab some nice coffee. And there's other stuff to do up here, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
worth the trip. But
It's definitely worth the trip.
right
Yeah,
on,
it's
man.
fun. Cool.
Well,
Well, thank you.
of course. Thanks for coming. I hope you all enjoyed episode 5 of the Over Extracted podcast. You can always catch this on video here on YouTube. If you're listening, you're probably listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I think you can find it basically anywhere those actually share their data. So check us out in all those different platforms. If you want to get the episodes early, you can become a channel member on YouTube. You'll get the video a day prior to the actual audio coming out. But with that, I will bid you farewell, and we'll catch you in the next episode.